Hi guys, this is Jason here from the Nathaniel School of Music. I'm the piano faculty here and I will be talking about creative uses of arpeggios in this tutorial. So I've put together a few exercises and a few tips which I use in my music, which should help you as a composer and an arranger, and also allow you to generate a lot of useful new ways of playing the instrument probably. If you're using these techniques already, great. If you're not, hopefully this will be useful. And we all know how powerful arpeggios can be. I guess you'll find it used a lot in rock music with guitar players, shredding away. Even keyboardists can, do a lot of the shredding stuff. And so on and so forth. So it's a very useful tool. It's also used a lot for ballad music. You could create a nice style by just playing the arpeggios up and down, either in a 6/8 time signature or in a 4/4, something like. I'm sure we found them used in a lot of scenarios, and in the in a modern context, you have things like arpeggiators. So you just push a button and you can get any kind of pattern, which a lot of which comes pre-programmed in the software or in the keyboard, and you can just generate it by the click of a button. And you could also program the notes in a specific way. So arpeggios are very useful. However, in this tutorial, I'm focusing more on using arpeggios to enhance your playing and to make it a lot more creative, perhaps. So first of all, we are going to talk about a few exercises to improve your sense of self timing, as what I call it. We are all very dependent on the metronome, but there are a lot of things you can do alone which can improve your sense of timing. And when you get into a band, it becomes a lot more clear, and everyone has a responsibility to keep in time and hold their own groove. And I'll also be giving you a few tips to use these arpeggios to help you arrange your songs in a more unique way and improve as a composer as well. And also give you ways of playing or bringing out the melody line, even though you're playing the arpeggios, which is more of a backing thing to do for a keyboardist. But while doing that, you could also bring up the melody line. So let's get started. First off, here are some exercises to improve your sense of self timing. So if you take a chord, a G minor chord, I'm just using G minor right now, but it could be any chord. So an arpeggio, as you know, is just the chord with the notes taken apart, and you just play it in some kind of a sequence. It could be something like this, or so it's still the G minor chord which I'm playing in a certain pattern. So in the first exercise, I call these ratio exercises. So in the sense, you'll be playing a certain pattern in the right hand, let's say this one, and then you could perhaps copy the same pattern in the left hand. It sounds a lot fuller, but what's happening is the left hand and the right hand are playing exactly the same thing. To make it a bit more interesting, the right hand could perhaps double the speed and play the same pattern. So it could be something like. a set chord progression. And so on. So these are your you can do a lot of stuff. You could do, now as you saw, I did double here and single here. You could even do single. You can just switch it around, and you can do all sorts of ratios. You can do 2:4. You can do 4:2. You could even do maybe 3:6 and get into the multiples of 3, which is also nice. So there's 6 going on there and 3 going on here. You could also try some polyrhythmic stuff if you like. So that's about the exercise, just simple ratios. And what's also cool about the exercise is you need not play the same pattern in both hands. You can have a different sequence of notes going on in the right hand and in the left hand. So for instance, if I go starting with the top note of the arpeggio in the right hand, in the left hand I could start from the bottom note in the right hand. So, and then with the speed variation, also works nice for odd time signatures if you're doing it on a 7. And so on. So be open to also changing the patterns around. It may not be that easy to do. It'll require a little bit of practice, but over time you could have different patterns going on in the right hand and stuff going on in the left hand as well. So yeah, that's about your ratio based exercises. Along with that, you could also try out a few things on syncopation, and I think that's where the keyboard really stands out as a percussion instrument. A lot of the percussion players toggle, or get both their limbs, the right hand and the left hand, to work together to create really really interesting grooves. So you could try that out. For instance, you could do something like this on the keyboard with a chord, so it sounds it adds harmony. It could even add a melody, but you're playing it with an interesting right left kind of rhythm. So this is what I call syncopation. I'm not too sure about the technical word, but yeah, I just call it syncopated arpeggios. So if you play the same G minor chord, so it's nothing but right, and you can take that concept to the next level. You can do one here in the right hand and maybe two in the left hand. Just try and play that higher. Another another very useful thing about using arpeggios is to create melodies. And most of the time when you use arpeggios to create melodies, uh, in the way I'm going to tell you now, it just happens by chance. Just the way you play the arpeggio itself, since it's played slow enough, it brings out a nice melody to the music you're playing. So if you take the same chord which I was showing you, G minor, right? And to make that a bit more interesting, what you could do is you could modify the melody notes a little bit, and and then just shape it the way you want. So for instance, add a few notes here and there. Cool. And another thing which you could try out, you could keep the same arpeggio pattern going, uh, as I discussed earlier, and then perhaps just move the top note with maybe the last two fingers. It's a style I use quite often when I have to hold the rhythm section of the song as well as bring out a melody line. So, what you could try to do then is keep an arpeggio pattern going here. So if you're doing, you could move the top note. And you could also play it a bit faster and keep the same melody going. So here you have an F major chord, and I'm just running the top note up and down. And the melody still stands out. So these were some creative uses of arpeggios. So hope you guys learned something from this tutorial, and hope you can also put some of this into your original music and your arrangements. And if you have any questions, please send them across. You can even write them in the comment section, and Nathaniel School of Music will continue to do a lot more tutorials on our YouTube channel. So please subscribe to our channel. It's called Nathaniel School, and tell your friends about it as well. So catch you guys in the next video.